Hey friends, welcome back to another session on light. The topic which we are dealing with is reflection. In earlier sessions, we understood the properties of images formed in plane mirrors and the technique of making ray diagrams for them. Now, it's time to make things a little more interesting. We'll study reflection in spherical mirrors. So, what are spherical mirrors? Are they those special kind of mirrors that we only see in laboratories or instruments or elaborate physics videos? Not necessarily. They could well be within the reach of the average ordinary man in his daily life or household. We've seen them hundreds of times without probably even realizing it, whether it's at the parking lot, at the carnival funhouse, or even at the doctor's. We don't even need to move out of the house to find them. A simple object that we've been using our whole lives can serve as a good enough example of what we're talking about. And it's even more interesting to note that this object can behave both as a convex and a concave mirror. The spoon. So, whether it's the spoon or the previously mentioned examples, if you've ever looked into them, you would have observed a considerable difference between your image in these mirrors and that formed in a plane mirror. You would even have a hard time recognizing yourself due to exaggerated distortions, expansions, or contractions of your features. Why does this happen? How does a small bend in a plane mirror or mirror-like surface, either forward or backward, give rise to such unusual images in terms of shape or size? It's because of the way light is reflected. We'll understand this more clearly across the next few sessions. For now, we'll revise what we know about spherical mirrors and understand a few terms related to them. So let's consider a plane mirror having a beam incident exactly perpendicular to it. As the word perpendicular is used, the angle involved is 90 degrees. We'll mark this perpendicular position of the beam for reference purposes later on. This mark is called the normal. As we can see here, the beam hits the mirror at the 0 degree angle with respect to the normal. So, it will get reflected too at the same angle following the laws of reflection. Now it's time to do something slightly different. Let's tilt the mirror upwards a bit. The beam will automatically form an angle with the normal as the surface is now inclined or tilted. So in which direction do you think the light will get reflected? Adhering to the laws of reflection, it will get reflected upward, and that too at the same angle. If we tilt the mirror downward, we see that the same set of events take place and the beam reflects downward this time. Let's compare these mirror positions by arranging them one below the other and also by switching the top and bottom positions. What do we have? Spherical mirrors. As mentioned earlier, spherical mirrors are of two types, concave and convex. From these images, we see that one mirror focuses light while the other disperses it. So here, the converging or focusing mirror is the concave mirror and the diverging mirror is the convex mirror. Let's place both these mirrors side by side and understand certain technical terms related to them. Since both are spherical in nature, a lot of the terms will be extremely easy to understand, especially as we would have already come across them in our video on circles. Being a part of a circle or sphere, both of them are bound to have a center. This is called the center of curvature. It is denoted by the letter C. As is the case with any circle with a center, the distance between C and any point on the mirror is called the radius of curvature. It is represented as R. The point on the curve of the mirror, which divides it into two equal halves, is called the pole. It is denoted as P. Now again, as P is on the circle, the distance between C and P is also R. Beyond this point, we'll have to use a little imagination. It's not difficult at all. Let's take it one step at a time. Just like how we had a normal earlier for reference purposes, let's now again have a line that passes through C and P, which sort of bisects the whole mirror curve. This line is called the principal axis. All rays incident onto the spherical mirrors will now be compared to the principal axis. Now along these lines, let us imagine a beam of light which has all rays parallel to the principal axis incident onto both the concave and the convex mirror. As mentioned before, in the case of the concave mirror which focuses light, the rays of the beam will be focused onto a point. This point is called the focus. In the case of the convex mirror which diverges light, the rays of light will appear to diverge from a point. This is the focus for the convex mirror. Thus, keeping what we understood earlier in mind, we can say that the concave mirror has a real focus while the convex mirror has a virtual focus. As for the convex mirror, the rays have to be back-drawn to form a focus. It is represented by the letter F. The distance between the focus and the pole is called the focal length. It is denoted as small f, and by rule of thumb is always half the radius of curvature. We will prove this in upcoming sessions. Well, that's all for now. But before we wrap this session up, here's some food for thought. If we set up a plane mirror and move back and forth before it, we don't see any change in our reflection per se. But if we try out the same experiment in front of curved mirrors, what do you think happens? Tune in to our next session to find out. Until then, keep watching, keep learning, and follow your curiosity.